On tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast, the Cubs win 3 straight against the Brewers, but they drop the finale on Thursday afternoon. We'll talk Kyle Tucker, we'll talk a red-hot Matt Shaw, and we will get things set up as the Cubs head to Los Angeles for a road trip. All and more on tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs-related podcast presented by Toyota, Let's Go Places, and Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Use code CHGO365 at sign up. Hello, everyone. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you on August 21st. We are live here on this fine Thursday evening. The Cubs, Brendan, take 3 of 5 from the Milwaukee Brewers, this big series we kind of had earmarked for a couple months now. Unfortunately, their play in recent weeks against some weaker competition, combined with nobody else in Major League Baseball being able to beat the Brewers, does render the Cubs winning the season series over Milwaukee, I don't want to say useless, but with under 40 games left and a 7-game deficit in the division, perhaps a bit futile.
I started thinking crazy this morning. I woke up. I know you did. I woke up. I'm like, okay, they won 3 in a row. Matt Shaw is looking like, Scott Rolen over there at third base. I'm thinking if they win this 4th game and be 5 games back, anything can happen. And that's how weird baseball can be. And yes, 7 games back is a huge feat to overcome, but should Matt Shaw continue to perform well and Kyle Tucker comes back hopefully healthy and better than what he performed in that last game against Milwaukee today, then crazy stuff happens. I'm not counting on it, right? But at least for the first time this morning, I woke up, I breathed a fresh sigh of relief. I felt good about the team for the first time.
Firstly, yes. Now the offense, despite winning 3 of these 5 games, still leaving a good bit to be desired throughout this series.
A lot to be desired, but at least we got those wins.
The pitching continues to be very strong, led by this starting rotation. Some really phenomenal performances out of this bullpen. We'll touch on all of that. But had they gotten it to 5, Brendan, and won the game today, you and I would have come on this podcast and said some really stupid stuff.
Stupid stuff. Yeah. I mean, regretful stuff in the most positive way, of course.
Yes. Look, as I said to you guys, I think last week, I have stopped hate watching every single night the Brewers play because it's a big deficit.
That's not true, though.
We'll see what happens.
You text me every day about them. I know that's not true. I know 7 games back.
Well, I monitor the score. I'm just not literally watching the game. There was a period where I was watching 2 baseball games a day. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Keep an eye on it. But as we've been saying, the important thing was just this team getting right. Like, even going into this series, regardless of how they played against the Brewers. And look, I joined a lot of people in expecting a much worse outcome in this series, let alone the Cubs winning 3 straight games after the Brewers had come in winning 14 straight and 30 out of their last 35, whatever it is, handing them 3 straight losses. Like, what was important to me was just this team starting to play better baseball. They're a playoff team, Brendan. So as much as everyone was losing their mind about how big the deficit in the division had grown and how this team had kind of been hovering a little bit above 500 for the past few months, ultimately the exercise was you still have a 6+ game hold on a playoff spot. And if you're going to get in there, you got to start playing better baseball. Now, we saw some of it in this series, but the offense still with a ways to go, I think, before we would come on this show, Brendan, and be like, oh, they're back. We still have not quite seen that performance, a few days in a row that takes us back to earlier in the season. And I think lets everybody breathe a little sigh of relief, like, oh, there's this Cubs offense. There's this relentless group
For sure.
that's taking their walks, running up pitch counts, coming through with runners in scoring position, getting production from their middle of the order guys and league best production from their 7, 8, 9 hitters. We didn't quite get there, but it was very nice to see them play a good competitive series against an obviously very good and solid Milwaukee team that's sitting as the best team in baseball, and beat them 3 games in a row.
There's signs that the offense is having some life, though. Yeah, we're not scoring 7, 8, 9 runs. I'm looking at the quality of contact. I know folks will roll their eyes, but for instance, Seiya Suzuki, the numbers have not been good, right? But he had one ball that went 390 feet. Yeah. The wind knocked it down. He had a hard hit double down the left field line. Some of the at-bats, like you said, leave more to be desired, but he's showing signs. Michael Busch, that bases clearing double. You were at that game. I mean, I could hear the Wrigley crowd from where I was watching the game on TV. It's those small instances we did not even see for the past month. So you take that, okay, well, Busch is looking better. Seiya's looking a little better. They're not quite there, don't get me wrong. You layer that on with Matt Shaw's emergence, looking like a true major league hitter and that high quality defender. And then you make some assumptions. And the first assumption is, well, Kyle Tucker, his hand is now healed. Hopefully he performs better. You make another assumption that PCA's recent slump, although he's looked better at times, is going to come out of it. And the assumption is, well, you get offense from Shaw that continues. And then offense does normalize to what we saw in April, May, and June. Maybe not to the high degree, but at least some fashion of what we saw. And that would be their best case scenario offensively.
Yeah. So on this show, we will talk about a lot of the key issues that I know people want to hear about. We will talk about Matt Shaw and take I think, extended look at what he's doing, as we've talked about, not only just for 2025, but as we go forward here. We are only a few weeks removed from a very large portion of the discussion centering around, like, should the Cubs be trading for an everyday third baseman? And we sit here now toward the end of August, I think, discussing, like, not only do we have our third baseman for the next several years, but what even is the ceiling for this young kid? So we're going to do a deep dive in that. We will talk a little bit about Owen Caissie. Obviously, nice to see him continuing to get in there, get some big hits, provide a little bit for this offense. We will talk about whatever in the world is going on with Kyle Tucker. We will talk about the pitching. That's the plan here. And again, centering it. Like, I know some people are hot about some of the stuff. Some people are annoyed at the lineup on Thursday, the omission of Matt Shaw and Owen Caissie, Kyle Tucker getting back in there, hitting second, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk about all that. But I do want to continue centering our conversations, Brendan, around, we're almost in September. At the moment, this is a playoff team. Yeah. And what matters right now is getting right and being in the best position this team can come the end of September and heading into the playoffs. At the moment, you're looking at a potentially, really tough and deadly wild card series. But you want home field advantage for that. At least I think you want home field advantage for that. If the wind is going to be blowing in 800 miles an hour every night for the rest of our lives, Brendan, I don't even know.
Listen, this team can't go on the West Coast. Okay, I'm not doing a 3-game set in San Diego. Forget that.
Yeah. And as KM here in our YouTube comments points out, if you're watching us live on YouTube, hop in the chat. We appreciate it. If you're listening later on your podcast feeds, as I always say, hello as well. Happy to be in your ears on this Friday morning. But KM in the YouTube chat pointing out, like, next 24 games, all teams under 500. So, as you said, crazier things have happened in the division. Maybe the Cubs have sparked something in the rest of Major League Baseball that they can beat the Milwaukee Brewers, and they don't have to get swept and play their worst baseball when Milwaukee comes to town. But even without that, yes, it is time. You had a good series here. You won this series. It is time to get things clicking again in in more ways than one, just as a full team, full steam ahead, and find yourself in a good spot come the playoffs, which right now you have a significant hold on one of those spots. And that's how I want to center all of these conversations.
Yes. The irony about all of these discussions is that going into the second half, the primary concern, I believe you have the same concern, was pitching. How can this team get into deep August, September through October with this pitching staff? We saw Shota Imanaga against the White Sox throw 3 miles per hour slower. Jameson Taillon wasn't even beginning to rehab yet. Javi Assad wasn't even beginning to rehab yet. Matthew Boyd was reaching his career innings marker. We're thinking worst case thoughts. Ever since then, about a month ago when we were thinking that right after the trade deadline, they've continued to perform. The greatest irony in all of this is that the most stable projection that the Cubs had was offense because of that track record. Despite that, the stability has been in the pitching staff with Boyd, Imanaga, Horton's blister. Hopefully he'll come back, but he's been stable. And then you have Jameson Taillon give you 6 innings against the Brewers. That was an incredible effort. Velocity looked good. The bullpen continues to look stable and good, giving Craig Counsell a lot of opportunities in that 5-game set. The pitching has exceeded my expectations, and it's being shadowed by this just darkness of the offense at this point.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned it too, but some massive pitching performances. I mean, real shout out to Jameson Taillon, especially with the way that game started, that first inning, for him to lock in and give them that start in the middle of a 5-game series, just massive.
I was thinking dark thoughts after that first inning.
Yeah, and coming straight up from a rehab stint and hopping into the rotation and doing that, massive shout out to Taillon. And some other, standouts. I do feel, I think our friend Evil Wax in the chat already mentioned this, but like poor Shota, man, can we score some runs for Shota Imanaga, please? Every start he makes one stupid mistake and the offense is like, sorry, dude. Like that's tough. You shouldn't have given up that 1 home run, man.
Well, that's the point. Is like, oh my God, if the offense were even just normal, we'd be talking so much more optimistically and glowingly of Shota. Not that we already don't, but if the offense just showed a little bit of life in the last 2-3 weeks, the tone is significantly different. And the hope is that offense does return and the pitching does continue to look that good. Corey can't hear us over here. We'll keep it going. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and take our first ad break. We'll come back around. We have a lot to talk about with Matt Shaw, with Kyle Tucker. We'll get into some pitching specifics, look at maybe Taillon and Horton. Let's go ahead and take that first ad break here, and then we'll come back around and we'll continue this discussion. Okay, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. New customers sign up today. Deposit $10, bet just $5, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Use code CHGO365 when you join. And Cubs fans, here's a kicker. Bet365's early payout offer has you covered. If your team goes up by 5 runs, you win instantly. Straight bets, paid, parlays, counted as winners. That's right. You don't even have to wait for the final out. So don't miss out on playoff season. Sign up with code CHGO365. Deposit $10, place a $5 bet, and score $200 in bonus bets whether you win or lose. Use those bonus bets on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Because whatever the game, whatever the play, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services are available by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. In-app only. OAO applies. Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake is slashing prices on new cars and giving you big savings all month long. It's the new car clearance event. It's going on right now. Check out their huge selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect ride. And as one of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, Ray keeps prices competitive, so you know you're getting the best deal. Plus, with Ray's price promise, the price you see is the price you pay. No surprises, no games. Visit Ray Chevrolet at their convenient location on Route 12 in Fox Lake, or shop anytime at raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. And do not miss out on that new car clearance event. It is going on all month long at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake.
All right, Brendan, do you want to jump into Matt Shaw? Should we just rip the Band-Aid and do the Kyle Tucker discussion?
No, let's do Matt Shaw, because Kyle Tucker can spiral into God knows what.
It can.
So let's do Matt Shaw.
Yes. Let's talk Matt Shaw. And, I put my hand up too. I remember the episode before, I think after the Yankee series, heading into the trade deadline. And now, to be fair, I was clear, always been a believer in Matt Shaw, and that never wavered. But I do remember saying, like, I can't imagine he sits for the Yankee series to work with the coaches, like going through all these aggressive swing changes. He's changed his swing for like the 5th time in the season. I just can't imagine he's going to be able to play himself into keeping this role with a week and a half, before the trade deadline or whatever it was at the time. Dead wrong. He got hot, and certainly wasn't this hot just before the trade deadline, but the front office made a decision. They made this gamble, and not only has he been light years better than Eugenio Suarez, for example, since the trade deadline, he has been one of the best hitters in baseball. There's you can chop up these samples however you want, but last 7 games, 896 OPS, last 15 games, 1151 OPS, last 30 games, 1079 OPS. This is a 23-year-old who has been sent down during the season, has adjusted his swing seriously no less than 3 times in a significant manner.
Yeah, more than that.
And right now is one of the best things that we're seeing on this team. To pair with it, Brendan, on Wednesday night, when I went to that game, first of all, unbelievable atmosphere. Great atmosphere. That Michael Busch moment, one of the best ones in years when he hit that ball to the gap.
That's a big statement.
One of the best. But that play that Shaw made coming in on that slow roller, rarely, if I'm I went to the game by myself, I like to listen to Pat on the radio and just take it in if I don't have a friend or anyone to go with. When he made that play, I audibly said expletives out loud. And that is rare for me to react to it. But I'm looking around talking to myself like, what did I just watch? What a development that Matt Shaw is making for this team on offense and defense, Brendan.
The trajectory of his development has been so fun and interesting to follow. Like you, I will say, hand up, didn't think it was going to happen this year. I genuinely did not think it was going to happen. I was thinking dark thoughts. The reason was because of the rapid changes and the extreme down performance of his offense. I'm thinking something just needs to click. He needs time off. It's going to happen in the offseason. So I did not expect this. However, going back to the last year and going back to our conversation specifically throughout the offseason and during spring training and right at the start of April, one of the questions you and I had about Matt Shaw was, is he going to strike out too much? Because his contact rate in AAA was 74%. Now, what does that mean? Well, the major league average is 77%. So I'm thinking, oh my God, he's going to get called up to the big leagues. He's going to be striking out 30% of the time. He's going to be whiffing more than what we saw from like Javi Baez. It's been the complete opposite. When he got called up, he was making too much contact, 80+% contact, chasing that outside the zone and making contact poorly. He was making too much contact. He gets demoted to Iowa. He only strikes out like 2 times in 50 plate appearances. So he was sacrificing power for contact. You saw that. You saw the different batting mechanics. You saw different batting stance changes. He had a close stance. His hands were lower. His hands were higher. Now his stance is more open. Now he's more upright. Now he's looking like a little bit like Javi Baez with his batting stance time and time and time again. And what that has led to is conviction with his swing. And you may remember, I look at blips. I said, the contact thing with Shaw is interesting because it shows me he has the capacity to make contact when he wants to make contact. That's a unique skill. Not everyone can do that. What happens if he figures it out? Well, he's figured it out. He's making 81% contact. That's among the highest on the team. And now you're seeing the power come. And we've been hearing for weeks, oh, but the bat speed doesn't have good bat speed. His bat speed's trending up. So you look at the bat speed. This is kind of a proxy for like conviction. Is he seeing the ball well? And is he giving his A swing? What you'll see early on in April on an every 5-swing basis, he's hanging out in the blue zone. His swings are around an average of 65 to 67 miles per hour. That's among the lowest in the league. That gap right there, AAA, comes back up in June. Swing speed starts to go up, right? A little bit up. The results don't quite hit. July hits right before the All-Star break, goes back down. Is getting beat once again. All-Star break passes, comes back up. All of a sudden, those dots, those swings, no more blue zone. He's convicted. He's seeing pitches. That bat speed's going up. You're seeing more dots in those red zones, but you're seeing no dots in the blue zone right there. That means he is feeling like he's seeing the ball really well. And that gives me confidence. And it reminds me, as we start following more prospects going forward, looking at Caissie, looking at Ballesteros, even PCA, look at those blips. Those blips are telling of what they're trying to accomplish. And you can just broad stroke it. You don't have to get into the fine minutia, because quite frankly, we're not coaches. I don't know what the hell is going on batting mechanic wise, right? But it's about the capacity to reach his potential. When I see crazy outlier trends like the contact rate, plus visually looking at his swing athleticism, I think, okay, well, there's a world in which he can perform. And it's happening now and faster than I expected.
Well, and the one thing, look, the performance, you can look at, I read off those OPS numbers. You can see the homers that he's hitting. Like, some of these results certainly speak for themselves. But I don't think there's a better example of how just impressive his development has been. It's that plate appearance last night against Mizorowski.
That 11 pitch plate appearance, right? Is that what it was?
Was it 10 or 11? I thought
Whatever
it was 10.
But
you're giving him an extra one. I don't know.
Sure. Maybe it was 12.
Firstly, starting with the call to bunt, right? Which we don't have to get into. I didn't like it at the time. I think if you've listened to Brendan and I long enough, I don't think we're ever calling for anybody to be bunting unless it's John Lester in the 16th inning or whatever it is.
Or Jason Hayward.
Right. But like, to come back from giving away a couple of strikes, right, and see 10 pitches against a guy pumping 100 miles an hour and end up taking a walk, getting on base, and you saw how fired up he was. But what an impressive plate appearance against such a tough pitcher in a huge spot, big series. And it just speaks to the whole thing and kind of where we started this conversation, like things like that, the defensive plays and just these developments for a 23-year-old who rocketed through the system, who starts with the team, gets sent down, comes back, performs poorly. Everybody's talking about trading for your replacement, like to
including
get to the point,
including us.
Yeah. When you get to the point that he's putting up an OPS over 1,000 over a month-long span and showing you some of the most professional and like locked in plate appearances that we have seen from anybody on the team, it's really difficult not to just be thoroughly impressed with Matt Shaw. And like I said, 2025, huge development. The Cubs didn't trade for a third baseman. They made that, gamble. They needed that to work, right? Or they were going to have to start throwing Willie Castro there every day or putting 40-year-old Justin Turner over there. I don't know. So obviously it's a huge development for this team right now, especially because over the last few weeks, he's been your best hitter.
But center on that. He's been the best hitter over the last several weeks now, right? It's a fair assumption to make that at some point you will see better production from Seiya. And we'll get into it after this segment.
Yeah.
For Tucker and PCA, right? Like when we're talking about overall outputs, Dansby, PCA, Seiya, they're producing at WRC pluses over the past month of like under 70.
Yeah.
Dude. I mean, this is like putrid offensive performance. Now, the dangerous assumption is, will Matt Shaw is going to continue to perform this well? But normalize things out, right? Let's take like half of what Shaw's been producing And then let's just like double what we've seen from the past month from the rest of the order 1 through 4, where you're getting production from guys you expect. And all of a sudden, the back end of the lineup with Matt Shaw's not that black hole anymore. You're getting offense from every single position. That is the dream scenario going into the year. We did not expect to have that much offense from every single position. It could happen as soon as like September. That's a crazy reality to be in at this point.
Yeah, really exciting. And again, just for the future, as we talk about so many conversations, what are they going to do in the off season? Are they going to give this guy a bunch of money? Are they going to sign this free agent? Is Ricketts cheap? All these other things that always come up in these off season discussions. Yes. But we talked about it with PCA. We talked about it with Michael Bush. Like when you can start filling out these positions and these roster spots with younger guys that you have under team control or that would be heading to arbitration if you don't get into conversations about extending them, that is how you make all of those conversations a lot easier. The more positions, and this goes for any team, whether your budget is $300 million, $150 million, $80 million, whatever it is, like the more positions you can fill out and answer, okay, we feel like we have our third baseman or our center fielder or our first baseman for the next 4 or 5 years, and they'll get more expensive in arbitration. And that's okay, because that's still going to be a better value than what they would go for on the free agent market. Then guess where you can spend that extra money, right? And even if the Cubs aren't spending as much money as we want them to be, or pushing over that luxury tax, or going, Steve Cohn crazy or anything like that, if you can lock up these positions at a lower cost, great. Now you can go spend that money on some big fish elsewhere. So really significant development for this team. And you tweeted some of these videos too. Like, talk about like just a fun player to watch too, like, and root for. Like the way he is busting it around the bases. He's yelling at the dugout now. He's screaming going into third base, like all this stuff. Like, you love that. Like, and I think you can start to envision like what we really need is him head on fire like that. Pair that with PCA getting jacked up and yelling and throwing stuff. And I want the goal for me, Brendan, and this is typically the case, I want the rest of the league to just despise the Chicago Cubs. Here come the big, bad, annoying Chicago Cubs to beat us and be annoying while they're doing it. And I loved what we saw from Matt Shaw. And I loved the split screen that you shared, comparing like Matt Shaw runs in such a like aggressive, I'm not even sure how to describe it. Wild,
animalistic,
versus like Nico, who's like so smooth, like a video game, with his movements. Just a very funny comparison there. But like, just love that energy from Matt Shaw.
Yeah, the comparison too extends just beyond the opposite of their running style. You talk about contact rate. Nico typically has like a 95% contact rate at pitches inside the zone, just to really emphasize how impressive Shaw has been. Post All-Star break, with the power we've seen, it's what, 9 home runs since the All-Star break, right? Something like that. 92% contact at pitches inside the zone. So I expected if Shaw were to come out of this funk, well, he's going to be whiffing more. I thought the contact rate would go down. To me, this is like the best case scenario. If I had to give a chance of this happening, a month ago, I would have given it literally less than 1%. Like, that's how I just mentally imagine Shaw finishing this year. That's why I'm so shocked to see it look this good. This is in some respect even wilder than what we saw from PCA last second half and Miguel Amaya last second half.
Well, cool.
Nuts.
It all worked out.
We'll take it.
Yeah. So let's hit our second ad break here, our last ad break of the evening here, and then we will have however long it takes us to sort through this Kyle Tucker conversation. Brendan and I are gonna do our best to work through this.
Sarah's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
All right, take our ad break here. Nobody likes being hot, sweaty, sticky, and uncomfortable in their own home. Nothing feels better than walking into cool, refreshing air conditioning on a blazing summer day. And summer will be here before you know it. So the real question is Is your home's air conditioning up for the challenge? Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric has been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. Now it's time to get your AC checked out, and the Four Seasons experts are ready to help with installation, maintenance, and repair. Remember, 2024 was Chicago's hottest year on record. The heat index even reached 114 degrees at O'Hare last year. Imagine going through that with a broken AC. Even when it's hot and humid, you want to know your home will stay cool and comfortable. Four Seasons expert technicians give you reliable service you can trust, and they never charge more for nights, weekends, or holidays. Right now, schedule your Four Seasons AC tune-up, save $50, and enjoy a 1-year no breakdown guarantee. Gotta love a guarantee like that. Your trusted local experts are Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. At Toyota's national sales event, we've got a long lineup of vehicles for summer fun. 4Runner's an off-road icon. Tundra hauls it all with its twin-turbo engine, and Tacoma takes adventure straight to the top. If you want to ride with sizzling hot style and efficiency, the all-hybrid Camry is revving and ready to ride. Visit your local Chicagoland Toyota dealer or toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. And become a CHGO diehard and upgrade your fandom today. Get access to our exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts and future merch and events, plus access to our CHGO Discord lounge where we all hang out and talk Chicago sports and so much more. Go to allchgo.com for the latest info on how you can join the thousands of CHGO diehards in our community. We cannot wait to connect with you on an ever greater level.
Okay, Brendan. So
here we go.
We spent a while wondering what was going on with one Kyle Tucker. And I do recall saying repeatedly, I guarantee you, if he has been healthy this whole time, he'll get right. Like if there was no injury, if this finger thing was just like a little thing they're mentioning and not a thing, he'll get right. He's not all of a sudden just a bad baseball player. Lo and behold, he had a fracture in his hand. So there is a relatively significant injury that he was playing through that leads us here. The interesting wrinkle, though, appears to be that he has his best stretch of baseball almost immediately following this fracture. So what I want to talk about here is what has kind of gone on, the decisions made in this series specifically, and what we think about him going forward, right? I don't really want to get into a 30-minute argument about what they should have done 4 months ago or who is responsible for that. We can talk about it. I just don't, I don't want to spend too much time. I feel like it just, you and I run the risk of speaking uninformed on a lot of conversations we were not a part of and that are relatively nuanced.
That's the fun part.
I guess. So it seems, Brendan, that he performed well in the immediate aftermath.
Which was early June, to put the calendar on this.
They felt that it was healing and that what seems to have happened is bad habits resulted as part of like compensating for that early on. I know he also fouled the ball like off his knee or his shin.
Yeah, second week of July.
It's second week of July. Like that could be, little dings. And we talked about this, like, especially relative to like Chris Bryant. Like that was always what I kind of thought was happening here. Like a little thing throws it all out of whack. Now, certainly, could you be extra annoyed that they knew about this fracture and didn't say anything and now are like putting this out there? And once again, we are sitting here discussing a guy like, should he have gone on the injured list? Why is he playing through this? Why is he playing through this while he's putting up his worst numbers of the season? A lot of flashbacks, Brendan. We talk about that Ben Zobrist wrist thing all the time. Dansby Swanson playing through stuff. Nico playing through stuff. A lot of nuance here. But in a way, I feel somewhat like relieved is the wrong word, but it was very confusing to me without there being a clear diagnosis. Like, yes, he was hurt. Something happened to him that all of a sudden the production just was on an absolute nosedive, right? And he's looking frustrated at the plate. He's looking dejected sometimes. He's throwing stuff. Ultimately, though, like, it all got to a point, and it's difficult, Brendan. He's got a big contract coming up. He certainly does not want to spend 2 straight seasons with a significant amount of time on the injured list, heading into those negotiations, heading into those conversations. He, like anybody else, and this was true with Ben Zobrist, Dansby, Nico, as we just mentioned this, they want to be there for the team. They want to be out there. They feel like they can push through it, and that is for the betterment of the team. Usually in these situations, they are wrong about that, but such is life. Also, a lot of nuance. If he's telling them, I feel fine, I don't want to go on the injured list, tough conversation for the front office and Craig Counsell to have, for a guy that perhaps you're hoping to have a future relationship with, for future stars that are playing here. It's not exactly that simple as I think a lot of people would make it. But, Brendan, the end result is that you have a situation that it is very difficult to look in hindsight now. And a lot of people were saying this in foresight, to be clear. Just overall, whoever is ultimately responsible, or however each they're responsible, doesn't seem like it was handled well. You ended in a situation where his production took a total nosedive and he's getting booed at home. And ultimately, that is not a good outcome, and it's not where we want to be.
The reality is it happened. So whether you want to critique the process doesn't matter,
sure,
right? You have to look at the outcome. And if you don't reflect on what could have been handled differently, then you leave yourself susceptible to future problems. I'm sure the Cubs medical staff, I'm sure the front office, they're retroactively looking at what could have been done differently. Because, of course, had the risk been known at the time that he would perform with no extra base hits in August, then they would have proceeded differently.
Yeah.
So some information was void during that process. If you don't go back in time and figure out what can be handled differently, then you're not doing yourself any favors for your future self. Now, I can look at this and be general and think, hate it, don't like it. I don't like you don't have that information. I don't like that this is our reality. Why was this missed? And so to put more crystal clarity to the timeline, well, early June, he hurts his thumb, fractures a little bit of his part of his hand, sliding into second base. Bat speed goes down. Lance Brzezowski and the marquee broadcast talked about this. Bat speed went down instantly. We're talking the next 5 games. I made a graph showing that. We're thinking, oh, okay, maybe something's there, right? But then he started to perform. Bat speed goes up. He starts hitting home runs. But the soreness didn't go away. Then mid-June comes around. Soreness is still there. Gets re-imaging. Boom. Hairline fracture. So weeks went by without having that information. But he's still performing. He's still hitting home runs. So if you're Craig Counsell and the medical staff, how do you tell a superstar potential $500 million player, you know what? I know you're hitting home runs over here, but you gotta chill out, right? And then July comes around. Then you start seeing the dip start, right? The offensive dip start. But that's in the midst of their worst offensive stretch. So yeah, he's not hitting for power, but you know what he's doing? Well, he's getting on base and he's producing at an above league average clip. And the fracture looks as if it's healing, right? So you're going to take away an above average bat from your lineup who's desperately trying to produce, whose hand is healing. How do you justify that? This is probably what they're thinking, right? All-Star break comes around. He goes to the All-Star game. He plays in the All-Star game. He must be feeling fine. And then late July, I'll show a graph here. Late July, the bat speed is mostly in the red. He's swinging his fastest in a 5 to 10 game stretch all year. So how do you tell a player who's injured to sit when the underlying mechanics look fine, right? That August hits, all hell breaks loose. Bearings are off. Bat speed goes down, chase goes up, whiffs go up, no power, no extra base hits, nothing. Everything breaks down in August. And so the question is, how did that happen? How did we go from having, a 2-month stretch where everything does look fine to this cliff dive, right? And that's where the Cubs retroactively need to address this, because again, had this been known, I guarantee you they don't operate in this fashion.
Yeah. And it's tough, again, look, it's easier said than done. I know it's easy to, tweet out that Counsell needs to bench him or they need to hit him ninth every day. Like, okay, you go tell him that, like, and you deal with like the ramifications of current players and future players disagreeing with how you're handling some top guys. And as you said, when he's performing well and things look right, I would venture to guess most of these guys are playing through stuff, right? So it's tough. Like, you're always asking these guys, hey, like, how you feeling? You good? You good to go out there? Like, you can't necessarily trust them. But a lot of these guys are playing through stuff. If every time they were looking at stuff, they were like injured list, injured list, injured list, it's tough to do that. Again, it's just easier said than done. And I think there's a lot of nuance here that, is important.
But at the same time, I don't think you can look at this and be like, oh, damn, there's nothing we could
No.
Right? And I know you're not saying that.
I agree with you. Yeah. As you look back retroactively, you need to evaluate the process of like, okay, we saw this on the imaging, but it appeared to be healing and the numbers looked good, but it created a process that is now bad and you have to figure out how to reverse. Yeah. And so how do we do that? How do we prevent that from happening again? And again, I don't know if I want to get into the whole, like, they should have IL'd him or Counsell messed this up or this. What I will say, though, is I do not like the process in the last few days at all, Brendan. And I have some real questions about like what.
Well, give me a better timeline.
The thinking was. So this gets announced and the decision is we're going to sit him for 2 days, right?
This gets announced on Monday, correct? I believe.
I think like during the game. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. Monday gets announced. So he misses the next 3 games. Yeah.
So like when firstly, again, it's difficult. You want to get this right. You're trying to balance a lot of things, but obviously the division got away from them. But finally making the decision to sit him in what basically is the biggest series left of the year, even if you weren't thinking of it from division perspective, as we talked about earlier, like you're playing a lot of teams under 500. So it would have been really great to either have rested him and hoped that he was healthy for this series because this is the best team you're going to play in a while, or not play him the entire time because he's not right. And so where I'm not thrilled with the process, and I don't know what the answer is, right? But he sits for 2 days and then immediately back in there. And this is sort of like my real issue. 2 days off, back in there, right in the 2-hole against a guy who's been really good this season in Priester.
It's challenging.
It is challenging. I'm with you. Like, and I am not going to sign up to be the guy that says, hey, Kyle, you're back in the lineup tomorrow, but you're hitting 8th. Okay, buddy. We're going to put you behind Dansby Swanson. Is that all right? I get it. There is a personal element to this, a human element to this, but I don't know. It didn't. I know a lot of people asking like, about the decision to sit Shaw, sit Owen Caissie on Thursday. I don't know, y'all. I get it. Like, Matt Shaw's been your best hitter. Owen Caissie has had some really big hits and a nice series. They haven't had a lot of off days. Like, they're playing 5 games in 4 days. They're flying out west. I don't know. Guys got to take breaks, and these guys are still young. You want to be putting them in good decisions. I get it. I would have liked to have seen for sure Matt Shaw out there today, but that part didn't really bother me. But I don't know. To have Tucker back out there just after a couple days against a tough pitcher in the 2-hole, and then to see him looking just exactly the same, Brendan, pulling off everything, hitting stuff on the ground. I mean, we got 1 ball in the air. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is.
Well, how many days do you want him off?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't
That's
know.
my
Yeah.
point. I don't know if it's 2 days
I
is
hear
fine.
you.
Yeah.
And when I say I didn't like the process, I guess I really mean I appreciate that there's so much nuance to the earlier part of it and how they should have handled it or how they would have handled it, et cetera. But I don't know. It just felt like, well, what is 2 days going to do? And then he's just right back in there in the 2 hole. And it was significant in today's game. He came up in
I'm
some key spots and doesn't look like himself. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know what the difference between 2 days, 4 days, 7 days is.
I
For
guess
say
that's
Suzu
true.
for
Yeah,
say Suzuki in San Francisco 2 years ago, it was 2 days. For Matt Shaw, it was 2 days in New York and then a week in his cabin for the All-Star break, and now he's, a Hall of Fame
sure.
third baseman, right? I don't know what the correct time is. So, I don't know. I feel like I'm balancing two truths. The first is I don't like this outcome, and I demand like perfection. So, of course, I am not happy that the process led to this. Like, obviously, it broke. So, I need that to be improved. At the same time, I understand how it got to that point. And I I think I have a different look with Craig Counsell handling it than you do. And
Okay.
so the reason is when you look at the end of July and you look at just the quality of the swings, the conviction of the swing, okay? He is convicted more than at any point in the season. So again, like bat speed stuff, right? So that looks fine at the end of July. So then the first 10 days hits in August, obviously it starts to go down. Okay. So fast forward to August 10th. And so you're seeing this dip and you're asking yourself the question, number one, is the fracture healed? Well, yeah, they said it was healed. So it's healed. Hold on. Number two, then the question is, well, how often has Kyle Tucker looked this bad throughout the season in terms of just mechanics? You can point back to early April through mid-April, where is the exact same period. So then Craig House thinking, all right, well, the hand's healed. Like he's done this before. Should I bench him now?
Yeah.
Right. So then August 14th hits. Okay. You have a 3-game set against Pittsburgh. Awful. That's the worst I've ever seen Kyle Tucker. Maybe his worst in his entire career. Then Counsell makes the difficult decision to bench your superstar hitter against the most critical series of the year. To me, that takes guts to do. And to me, that's almost like acting, I'm not going to say proactively by no means, but that's an aggressive call to
Sure.
do it at that point. So I understand at the pace it took Counsell to make that decision, right? But again, that's the balance, the truth I'm balancing with the other side where I hate that it got to that point.
Yeah, I hear you. And look, even devil's advocate kind of to myself, at some point, like you can watch what he's doing in the cage, you can watch what he's doing in BP. They have all these, biomechanical ways to track movements and body positioning and all these things to see if it looks right or more in line with like, his best periods. But ultimately, like the only way to get right is against major league pitching and to be in there and face major league pitching and get it right in the game. So eventually you want it to be right. You got to play. And we've said this even throughout this stretch. The key is getting him right because this team, for as exciting as Matt Shaw has been, as cool as it is to see Owen Caissie hitting his first homer at Wrigley Field and coming up with clutch hits, or even Mo when he was up in that last Brewers series, getting a big hit in that series, like if this team doesn't get their big guys going and driving this offense, what are we going to do here? Like, that's a lot of pressure to put on Matt Shaw that he needs to be the best hitter in this lineup, not only for the stretch that he's been doing it, but, through September and into the playoffs. This team needs and was built to succeed with Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch, PCA, like those guys driving this offense. It's why this team was the best in baseball when that was happening. And it is on Counsell in the front office to figure out how to get that back and going. And how does he do that? I don't know. If he is healthy and feeling right, I think he will get back to it. How quickly? I don't know. But it's obviously a tricky situation. I will say, I am going to offer an opinion on this, Brendan. As Luke Stuckmeyer always says, fan how you want to fan. If you pay money for the ticket, you can go do whatever you want as long as it's within the rules at Wrigley Field. I do not at all support booing the guys on our team. The guy is a superstar. The Cubs are not a playoff team without what Kyle Tucker has done this season. I get it. He didn't run out the one ball. Like, the first baseman was standing next to the base.
I look at it a little bit differently, but
I'll hear you.
Yeah.
I'm not for that. I did not like that. I find it a little embarrassing, honestly, like seeing the tweets go around about like him being booed at Wrigley. Not for me. I do genuinely believe like the best way to support these guys is to support them. Like they're our team. I would support them. Yeah, that's my opinion.
I don't boo either, right? I'm not going to tell fans to boo at all. I'm not even going to say, oh, well, you're entitled to boo. I'm not even going to say that either. What I will say is when you have that type of emotional burst, right? You break things. So the brain's going to react. So Tucker, whether he responds to that or not, seeing Tucker from the outside, I guarantee you, I would expect it doesn't bother him. But if there's a way to kind of like, piss him off, so to speak, change the mindset, right? Those emotions drive different behaviors. I don't think it's a net loss. Like, I think in some ways that could be like a good thing. Sometimes you gotta be booed. Sometimes someone's got to get on your butt. Honestly, right? Again, I'm not supporting that. That's not how I would go about doing this. I'm not booing. I don't like it either. Like, I want to support the guys, but I can't sit here and say, hey, you know what? You always got to support them. Got to carry their hand. You got to pat them on the butt. Good job, buddy. Attaboy. Sometimes you got to get screamed at. Sometimes you got to have a confrontation. You do. And that really does open and change the way you behave and have a different routine or think about things. So I'm okay with it. But I don't like it.
Yeah, we don't see eye to eye on that. But
I'm not saying to go boo.
It's fine,
right?
Yeah,
I'm not saying to go boo, but I think sometimes like the vitriol, like why are you booing? It's like, dude, you know what?
I don't think I was vitriolic.
No, not you. I mean, there's folks who are like, oh, don't be booing. Like, listen, sometimes that can be a good thing. I'm not supporting it, but it does change behaviors. It invokes an emotional response that sometimes can be good for certain people. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know, man. I think the idea that Kyle Tucker, who's playing for $500 million, is needing the motivation of the bleachers booing him is a little strange to me. But I don't think
it makes any difference. Here's the thing. It likely makes no difference. Okay. It likely makes no difference. Sometimes it might make a little bit of a difference. You never know, but I don't think it makes a difference. But I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, listen. Getting booed, there's worse things in the world than getting booed, Corey. Okay, especially when you're making $20 million.
Well, hey, I didn't say it was like the worst thing anybody's ever done, but it was part of the conversation. I'm just saying, like, sometimes I was there. Sometimes it's not for me. Like,
sometimes I get chewed out. Right, at the time, I'm like, oh my god, I hate you for doing it. And then I look back, I'm like, you know what? I did some good stuff after I got chewed out. After someone got on me. Hate to say it, but sometimes it does work.
All right. Well.
Anyway, expecting that, huh?
Look, ultimately it's about getting him right. And I think it's going to be rather interesting to see how Craig decides to continue doing this, because I think it's unrealistic to expect overnight that he's just going to snap back one game and look completely perfect. And, there it is. If it is a mechanical thing that he's lost and needs to get back into, I do think, that can take time to get back in that rhythm and to really feel it. And it's just going to be interesting to see how they manage this. And, does Craig keep rolling this kind of similar lineup out? Does he shake things up? What's the kind of leash here? Now that it's been like acknowledged and it's in the open, like what happens if we see the exact same results for the next week, right?
Well, then the season's over at that point.
Well, I don't know. I suppose. But yeah, it's a difficult spot. And
what's your confidence he can turn it around?
If he's not feeling any pain anymore from the injury, which is what they're saying,
Counsel said the injury's healed, by the way.
Well, then I'm not going to lie to you. I would say 100%.
Okay.
Like I guys get in bad habits, but I just you're not.
You think he figures it out?
I can't fathom that all of a sudden he just has developed some horrible mechanical habit that he's just a bad baseball player
Yeah.
now. I
So
just don't. I can't imagine that being the case.
what's your confidence Matt Shaw produces to some degree offensively the rest of the year? Average to above average. What's your confidence?
I mean, right now, 100% too.
Okay. Where were you a month
And
ago?
I do look so much at that like plate appearance where he takes the 10 pitch walk. Like he just looks dialed in. And this is a guy that's had a lot of success in his baseball career. And I think that you're seeing such growth from him that, certainly like I'm not holding him to the expectation of putting up an OPS over 1,000 for the rest of the season. But I think, as you said, above average to, average, like, yeah, I think he's dialed in. He's figured some stuff out with his swing. And, the same as we said with PCA, like he's 23, like pitchers are going to adjust to him in a new way. There's going to be peaks and valleys. There's going to be shifting. But I do think like he's clearly made some real strides that I think he's going to be able to carry.
Confidence with Seiya. I'm just going to go through the lineup. I want to get your confidence levels on some of these guys.
I mean, I don't want to go through the whole lineup, but
well, I mean, just like generally speaking, who in the lineup are you confident will be, or that you lack confidence won't be at least league average? Anyone in the lineup?
I mean, I suppose, the catcher situation has taken the wrong turn.
So
I know,
one guy,
hopefully Miguel
Carson
Amaya
Kelly,
is coming back, but Carson Kelly, seems to come up a lot in like clutch spots and just not come through. Dansby's been pretty frustrating. Just a lot of plate appearances that don't look very good. But Nico looks great, having one of the best years of his career. Ian Happ's having a weird season, man. Like he's certainly not having the season that I think some of the vitriol is warranted. But he's always been a streaky hitter, and he's had some bad streaks in this one. So I wouldn't say I'm concerned about him, but he might be one. And Seiya, I don't know. I mean, his OPS is now creeping, threatening to be under 800, but he's barreling the ball a lot. And I know people don't want to hear about, oh, he's getting unlucky, or is it because of the wind at Wrigley? But, he has put some good swings on the ball. He does look lost at times, but that's always kind of been Seiya,
That's the most frustrating part. If you look at the projections the rest of the year, right now the Cubs have a 98% chance of making the playoffs at 91 and 92 wins. You can go see how they're expected to do it. They're expected to reach that mark with below league average production offensively from Dansby Swanson and from Matt Shaw, and with about career averages from the entire rest of the team. So I pose a question to you because you start thinking high ceiling. Well, if Matt Shaw is going to be better than league average, you just said 100%. Well, then you can start tallying on more wins. PCA is projected to have a league average offense, a 324 weighted on base average the rest of the year. Right now, he's almost at 350, right? Expected numbers are also higher. So if he continues to play above his pace, which he's done the entire year, well, then you start adding on more wins. And then you just generalize it, right? What is the odds the Cubs can produce runs in the next 6 weeks? Well, you have option A, B, C, D, E, and F, right? That seems like a good place to be in. Then he's got to hope and pray the pitching stabilizes. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but when you have Matt Shaw showing this ability, then it just creates more possibilities for wins and for them reaching their potential. It leaves me way more confident that they can do it.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those spots where it is going to test Craig a little bit. I see it in our YouTube chat here. Like, again, you want to balance, like, the young guys come up, they're hot, but you do want to keep putting them in good matchups. You want to put them in positions to succeed, to have those moments. But you do have a lot of like exciting young players. It's fun to watch Owen Caissie come up and get these big hits. Like I said, it was with Mo, we got the biggest hit in that last Brewers series. And, you expect to see more of these guys come up in September. Hopefully Miguel Amaya could come back if that injury is not as significant as
He was
they're
throwing on the
reporting.
field. Looked
Yeah,
pretty good.
100%. So
Yeah.
it is going to be an exercise in that. I do want to finish the conversation a little bit, so we're probably going to run a little over. If you're watching on fast channels, hop over to YouTube, and we will finish this episode in overtime. Back with you. Yeah, it's just an interesting balance. Like, we went through this exercise a couple years ago with David Ross, Brendan, right? Like, where the quote was, "We're going to ride the guys that got us there," right? And everybody took issue with that. That ride did not work.
That was a rough
off
ride.
that ride.
Yeah.
And you just find yourself with a lot of these guys, injecting a little life into the team. Now, at the same time, like, it's not like the offense was great in this series, but that certainly wasn't Matt Shaw's fault. I don't think it was Owen Caissie's fault either. But it's a tricky one, because I know it's, you want to ride the hot hand, and you want to kind of believe that these guys can just jump in and hit their ceiling and perform. But we've also seen, other guys, and significant ones in Cubs history, come up and struggle in their first extended periods of playing time. So it is quite the balance. And when you have a lineup of guys who are not performing at the level that they were earlier in the year, or as you expect them, right? And Tucker certainly being one of them. Say, we can point to the barrels and the batted ball luck and stuff like that. But ultimately, like, if he's hovering around an 800 OPS, it's not where you want him, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see how Craig manages this, and when he does lean on these young guys, and how he manages, if it continues, some of the guys kind of expected to carry this offense, not necessarily doing that in the way that you need them to.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of discourse on Craig Counsell over the past few weeks, especially during this rough stretch. The common word is overrated for Craig Counsell. Managers, the difference between manager to manager is marginal and is reflected in their pay. Craig Counsell is making $8 million. The average baseball player in free agency makes around $10 to $11 million. Cubs are paying Craig Counsell the same contract you would pay for a slightly below league average player.
Making more than Justin Turner.
Making more. Okay, sure. You know what? But look at the value that Turner provides on the field. Not much, right? And that's kind of what he's being paid to do. So the difference between manager to manager is a few $1 million, and the value is probably slightly different, right? So overrated means the expectation is unreasonable. So then the question is, what is Craig Counsell doing? You're seeing blips of it throughout the past few weeks. You extend one pitcher into the second inning. You buy 2 outs there. You buy 3 outs there. You have Tealbar go through an inning and 2/3. Well, you just saved 2 outs right there, right? You push the pedal a little bit in Cade Horton. You get 20 innings better than expected. Colin Ray, you're going in. Ben Brown, you're eating 6 innings, right? It's a close game. You know what? Got a 50% chance. Let's buy 2 more innings. Save innings, right? And you're never going to see that pop up on the box score. You're never going to see a pitcher eat 3 innings last week have a subsequent effect on your ability for Brad Keller to get a save against the Brewers. You're not going to see those effects, right? I do, however, see the effects of Steve Cishek dying under Joe Maddon's watch. I see the effect of David Ross having every late inning reliever throw 14 innings in August and September and their arms falling off, right? I see those effects, right? But with someone like Craig Counsell, you're not going to see that be obvious. And again, the difference in pay is marginal. So your vitriolic opinions about being overrated, well, number one, it's not that big of a deal. They're barely paying them. And number two, well, you're already seeing how it's working so far. So overrated, maybe not. But it's just kind of getting on my nerves recently, especially how we saw David Ross get fired because he was not as crisp. He was good, but not as crisp as Craig Counsell's been.
I'm with you, man. Look, there's never a manager like in my Cubs life, and certainly I don't get this sense from other fan bases, even who like their manager, that they like are infallible and they agree with every decision they've ever made. Do I disagree with the lineup here and there? You bet I do. Do I disagree with some bullpen decisions? Of course I do. But like in general, I think Craig Counsell's process is good. And
I trust Counsell's putting in the effort to get every
yeah,
single ounce of detail.
and like I see the the YouTube comment here from Bleacher Bum 099. People only dislike him because of the so-called not showing emotion and the press conference nonsense. Like, yeah, I just don't care about that. I don't care if he's getting ejected. I don't care if he's throwing stuff. I don't care what he says to the reporters. It's very strange to me, like, that so many people care. Like, do you care the answer that he gives to Jesse Rogers? That's what's determining like whether he's a good manager or not.
I do when he says that's a bad take. He
Well,
shows emotion.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I do know what you're saying.
As to the media, and we have no clue what goes on in that clubhouse. I see people say sometimes that he doesn't hold the players accountable, or he needs to, show more emotion. You don't know that he's not doing that, and I think you should be glad that he doesn't do it on TV. Like that's my opinion. If
For
you
real.
that out of the manager, again, fan how you want to fan. I'm not telling you you're right or wrong. I just don't care, man. Like I care about his process and whether he is making decisions that I can, from my seat at Wrigley Field, say there seems to be a logic here. And we have had managers throughout my lifetime where constantly I cannot see that logic. That's my feeling. So he has a reputation that he does for a reason. He was offered a lot of money and sought after by multiple big market, big analytic, big successful teams for a reason. No manager is going to be perfect. I don't, like you, Brendan, I don't care what they're paying him, and I definitely don't care.
Which is like nothing.
Yelling at people in the press conference or in the dugout. It does not matter to me. I don't think that has a material effect on the performance of the players. I just don't. I don't think that him getting ejected every night when Seiya gets a bad call is going to help him in the long run. I don't think that makes Seiya a better hitter. I don't think that helps him with the umpires. Just, should he have been yelling at Kyle Tucker more? Like I sometimes I don't even know what the implication of this is. Doesn't matter to me. But if you want to see more, I get it. He's the highest paid manager in baseball. Sometimes when frustrations boil over and get high, I understand. Like, fans want to see that. They want to see that the guys they care so much about care as much as them. I promise you that they do. It's also part of Craig's job to create and maintain a stable environment, right? And him losing his mind every 30 seconds at stuff that bothers me as a fan, probably not a good idea.
You know what the irony is? You see the term thrown around, mentally weak. These guys are soft, right? You know what's soft? Impulsivity. You know what's soft? Not making decisions with your bearings straight, right? You know what mentally strong is? When things are not working, you're looking at everything, you're making decisions with rationality. You're the same guy as you were 2 weeks ago when you're winning 10 games straight, as the same guy when you're losing 10 in a row, right? Predictability, stability, that's mentally strong. That's why they're in the dugout playing. That's why you and I are screaming at each other on these podcasts, right? That's the difference. So if I were a player, I personally, the way I would respond is stability, having the mental strength to withstand some of these low points.
Yeah. I don't know. So
one last stat. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at the projected innings rest of the year, so typically a reliever, if you're pitching 70 innings, you're being used like every other day, every other third day. Cubs right now have only one pitcher inching towards a 70 inning marker, Brad Keller. I'm shocked to even see this. Caleb Thielbar, only 46 innings Daniel Palencia, only 45 innings. They're projected to be under 60 innings the rest of the year. That's insane to me because the Cubs starting pitching staff has not been going deep often. So somehow you have guys that seemingly are used every other day are not going to reach their 70 inning marker at this pace. I mean, here's one interesting stat. Caleb Thielbar has pitched in 54 games, 46 innings, right? So he has more appearances than innings. He's able to be used in situations that maximize his performance, but protects him long term. Again, if you look at the way their bullpen was used in 2023, ALLCITY, 14 innings in 1 month. Merriweather, 14 innings in 1 month. If you scale that usage for a full year, that's 85 innings. David Ross was using his bullpen at an 85 inning pace for 2 months. They got gassed. You're not seeing that with Kirk Counsell's bullpen.
Yeah. I do want to mention too, like, especially in this series, one thing that we just didn't talk about, we've highlighted him a good amount, but like it was a little rocky, especially on Wednesday night, but like another major shout out to like Daniel Palencia, man. I mean, what a development. Like
he was under the weather too.
Yeah. Coming into like a season where he was certainly not earmarked to be the closer and developing the way he has to getting to the point. I know we were talking about it on Wednesday night, but like now he's got a closer entrance. They're turning the lights off for him. They're pumping gasolina. Like, and like on Wednesday too, when that started, the entire crowd on their feet. Here he comes. What a development, man. What a cool development.
For
like,
sure,
and again, like another guy who's had, you know, a rocky go of it, right? Like a guy who at certain points, like, does this guy have the command? Like, yeah, he pumps gas, but can he even be at the MLB level? Like, and to not only be there, but be on the mound in these big games and like getting through it. Rocky on Wednesday, you know what I mean? Didn't have his best command, but like staying in it and pushing through that. And you're able to look at that game now and be like, man, what a learning experience and what an experience for him. Obviously, and I think you have to be a closer, like for an emotionally charged guy, like to have that experience, get out of it, celebrate the win. Like these are all such big experiences for these guys. Just really cool for Daniel Palencia. Another really significant development. And, you know, we talked about it coming into the year, like the Cubs got a hit on some of these reclamation projects. They got a hit on some of the guys they're bringing up. And it certainly has not been a 100% success rate, but some really strong, just hits for them. The trade for Thielbar, the bringing in Brad Keller, the work that they've done developing Daniel Palencia after the trade, you know, that they got him with Oakland, just some good stuff in that pen.
Taking a step back, the way they've won their games against Pittsburgh and Milwaukee, again, 2 consecutive series, production from PCA had 3 hits in 1 game against Pittsburgh, production from Owen Caissie, Matt Shaw, Cade Horton, Daniel Palencia. I mean, when the team needs it the most, you have those prospects performing well.
I can't hear you anymore. It happened again. So we're just going to wrap up. I don't know what's happening, guys. I'm going to fix it, but we're in overtime.
It was a great statement.
We're toward the end here. Yeah, I think ultimately so much of this conversation, and I wanted to center it around, like, again, we've got a little over a month now left in the season. The Cubs are heading into a stretch where they are not playing their best, opponents. It's a lot of teams under 500, and they got to get right. They have a significant hold on a playoff spot. The first goal always coming into the year was getting into the playoffs. I certainly elevated that expectation to winning the division, especially after how they started the season. But we'll see how these, 30-something games play out. But right now, they're a playoff team. They've had some really great moments. And we can't, right? If we removed the context of how great the Brewers have been, I think we'd all be looking at this as a really excellent season for the Cubs. So let's get right. Let's get Kyle Tucker right. Let's get this offense scoring. I think it would be nice to not just expect them to score 2 or 3 runs every night. So let's get back to that place. Let's get into the playoffs and try to make some noise. It's been a while. That's the goal. Let's get right. They've got some time to do it. Rack up some wins against some bad teams, get things rolling again, and hopefully they can find themselves in a place the last, week or 2 weeks of the season that they're feeling good and rolling into the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can make some noise. So Brendan and I will be back with you next Thursday. We appreciate it. Don't forget to turn in to Luke and the boys throughout the week. We appreciate your support. We appreciate being in the YouTube chat, listening on Spotify, etc. And we will talk to you again next week. As always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.